Hello to all my B-Day students. I'm sorry I couldn't be there today. I really wish I could because I know we're starting our project. Unit 3 is our summative assessment. This is what we're going to be doing. You're going to be creating your own country using the 5 themes of geography. First and foremost, if you have any questions today, please email me. The sub's going to write my email on the board, and you can just email me and I'll get back to you as fast as I can about what you have a question about. Okay, so do that during the class today. Also, if the whole class has a question, she has my number so she can access or she can call me and we can get this straightened out. First things first, the goal of this summative assessment is to show that you understand the 5 themes of geography by creating a country of your own and applying your understanding. You will have 2 in-class work days to complete this project. So you have today as well as Friday, and then it's going to be due on Tuesday of next week. So you have 2 full class days to work on this. The first part, and I would complete these in order. I would complete location first. Where on the Earth's surface is your country? Provide its absolute location as well as its relative location using a blank map template. That blank map template is in your it will be given to you, and it looks something like this. Okay? So when you look at this, you're going to pick a place in the world and write your country. Now, with your country, you can create it however you want. People have been really creative in writing letters, shamrocks, any type of shape as long as it's appropriate, as well as the name. You get to be creative in this and you get to make your own country. So what you'll do with this map is you'll sketch out where in the world, let's just say I'm going to put it right here. Mine's going to be a little shape like this, and I'm going to draw it out right here. I'm going to find its absolute location as well as its relative location. Now, to find absolute location, for example, if mine is right where my cursor is, it would be roughly 10 degrees north and 10 degrees west. So I am 10 degrees north of the equator and 10 degrees west of the prime meridian. So that's how I'd find my absolute location and relative location. That's all you need to do with this. One thing I will say, if I put my country right here where the Rocky Mountains should be, you do not have to include mountains on your map. If you want to, that's great. But imagine that the physical characteristics of what we know of the world don't exist. You get to create those all on your own. Okay? So let's go back to our packet. Go back to the front page here. You shouldn't have left. What characteristics does your country have? Here's where you're going to be creating 5 blank map templates. So you're going to need to create an elevation map, a climate map, a vegetation map, population density map, and an economic activities. I have put up around the room the different types of maps, so you have access to those and you can see how people created those. The elevation map, I would recommend starting with that. That's probably the easiest place to start after you have your location and your relative location. So complete this first. Once that's done, I would start with your 5 maps and creating an elevation map. That would be a good place to start. You may want to write that down. That way you have the elevation map as your starting point. All right. I'm going to get to that in a little bit, but those are the 5 maps that you need to create. You're going to need 5 blank pieces of paper that are in the back. So you'll have access to those and you'll need 5 blank pieces of paper. Next, if we go down, human environment interaction. How do people interact with the environment? Describe how the people of your country depend on the environment, how they modify the environment, and how they adapt to the environment. Okay? That is going to be in written form. So I'll get to that later, but you're going to be actually writing this portion of it. The first 2, you have this sheet that I showed you, and place, you're going to create your 5 maps. These next 3 categories, human environment interaction, movement, and region, are all going to be written. So you need to tell me all the ways that people interact, depend, modify, and adapt to the environment. Okay? Also, movement. How do people, goods, and ideas move in and out of your country? You need to have all 3, people, goods, and ideas. In particular, what goods does your country produce and export? should be related to your economic activity map, and what goods does your country import? Lastly is region. Region. What region does your country belong to? Determine at least one region based on physical characteristics and another based on human. So there are 2 points there, one for physical, one for human. Explain why your country belongs to these regions. Okay, you get to create that all on your own. Could be a made-up region, but as long as it matches your project. And I'll get to that in a second. These are optional extras if you would like to complete them. They are not worth any points, but if you want to complete them, that is your choice. All right. Now, please flip this to the next page. If I'm going to click on a new tab, but this will be the next page for you. This is a how-to. So I'll give you a second to get there, but this is a how-to, and I'm only going to go through a little bit of it because you can read, but where can I place my country? Okay, this will help you go over some of the things that I'm covering in this screencast. And how do I start? How do I start my project? Start by deciding what elevation or climates you want your country to have. Like I had mentioned, elevation is probably the best place to start, all right? And it gives you some tips and hints and things in here. Tropical climates are located between 30 degrees north and 30 degrees south. So think about that when you're placing your country on the map. Do I want it to be a tropical, or do I want it to be a temperate climate? That's located between 30 degrees and 60 degrees north, okay? Climate is only dependent on where you put it on the map, okay? You cannot, if you place your country on this map, if you put your country up here above 60 degrees, you cannot have a tropical climate. It has to be a polar climate, all right? And those are listed here. After choosing a location, you will begin creating your place maps, okay? One thing I will mention, you have access to the textbook online, okay? Notice that chapter 2 is where I want you to go. So chapter 2 will be an important place for you to access all of these types of maps. It gives you visuals as well as the ones that are hanging around the room, okay? Also, how do I do relative location? How do I create my place maps? This is a great resource for you, especially because I won't be there to help you with your questions. Again, email me, but I won't be directly there. Now flip it over to the next page if you're going ahead. Geographic patterns to keep in mind and apply. So I'll give you another second to flip, but this is going to be a very vital portion as you start to create more maps. Look at the first thing that you see, patterns concerning landform and climate. This helps you with creating your second and third and fourth and fifth maps. What I mean by that is you've created your landform map. That's the first one that you have. You then are going to make your climate map next. You have to match that and make sure that it makes sense with your landforms. You can't tell me you have a 10,000-foot mountain and then you have a tropical climate. Or you have highland climate occurs at elevations greater than 10,000 feet. But if you notice, here is the climate and absolute location. Tropical climates, the only two tropical climates are tropical wet and tropical wet and dry. So if your country is located between 0 and 30 degrees north or south, you're going to have these two types of climates. The types of climates and their elevation matter right here, okay? So latitude is the most important factor of climate. So when you're trying to determine your climate map, latitude, where it is on your map, is the most important factor. So where you place it on this map will be the most important factor when it comes to climate. Okay, that's something that I have questions about, how to get started. There's climate and vegetation. There are all of these patterns. So if you're a diligent student and are looking for patterns and using your packets, that will be a valuable resource for you. Okay, so keep those in mind and apply. A lot of people ask me, what is an arid climate? An arid climate is going to be something that is dry. So you can see arid climates, semi-arid, places that are going to be very dry. So if you have a landform with a desert or with something like that, then you're going to need to have an arid climate. But if it's just average temperature, then maybe it's humid continental, and you'll figure that out as you create it. Last couple of things that I'm going to show you. This rubric, flip it over to the back. So this is the back side of your packet. I only have 3.5 minutes left on the screencast, so please bear with me. Create your own country rubric. This is going to be your guide. Do you notice here at the top, location? How do I know that I'm done with this? Location is right here. Once you're done with this sheet, you're done with location on the rubric. So put a couple check marks and be done with it, okay? Now notice, here are your place maps. You should have 5 of them. Landform. What is the difference between landform and elevation? Trick question. There's nothing. So with your elevation map, you're going to need the for your landform map, you're going to need to show the elevation of your country. But you also need to show if you have deserts or rivers or places like that, you can just write them in. You don't have to shade them in blue. You can just write in a desert or a lake or any type of landform on your elevation map. You need a climate map, vegetation, population density, economic activities. Notice, this is very important. Application of geographic patterns. The sheet I just showed you, geographic patterns to keep in mind and apply. This is going to be very helpful as you create your second, third, fourth, and fifth maps. Why is that the case? Because climate and absolute location are accurately and logically matched. Notice, latitude is the most important factor of climate. So like I had said earlier, if you put your country between 30 and 60 degrees, you're going to have a temperate climate. You're going to have one of these climates. West Coast, Mediterranean, arid, and or you might have a combination of them depending on your landforms, okay? If we go back to the rubric, landform and economic activities have to match. Climate and vegetation have to match. And it seems overwhelming at first, but I would start with your landform / elevation map, which again are the same thing, and then move ahead from there. Landform and climate are a good place to start. There is one key thing that I need everybody to write down. So please grab a pencil or something to write with. All 3 of these on the bottom, those are going to be the written portion. So all 3 of these on the bottom are going to be in a written essay format. Human environment interaction. I would start it with a title just like this. And then you write how people depend, modify, and adapt. Notice, 2 points. I would have 2 ways that people depend, 2 ways that people modify, 2 ways that people adapt. When it comes to movement, there is 3 points right here. So I'm going to need to describe how people, goods, and ideas move in your country. So that's going to get you all 3 points. Then you can read these other ones to know how you're going to have to write them out. And region, notice the points. You need at least 2 regions, physical and human characteristics. So this is a reminder, all 3 of these, write this down, are going to be the written portion of your essay. I would do these last. First thing you're going to do, location. Then create your maps. As you're creating your maps, make sure that you have these geographic patterns and that they're matching up with each other. I don't want you to make a climate map that doesn't match landforms, or your climate map that doesn't match vegetation, or it doesn't match your economic activities. So make sure that you connect those together. Okay, it's going to be worth 33 points. Okay, so that's the rubric. I want to show you one last thing. If you go to the online textbook or use the green book in the back, here is in chapter 2. Remember, it's chapter 2. I want everybody to hear that. Chapter 2, right around page 30. You can see this elevation map. So it says physical features. This is an elevation landforms map. Look at this. This is a good scale to use, 0 to 1,000 feet, 1,000 to 2,000. This is going to be a good resource for you, all right? That'll get you a good start. Any other maps, please look around the room.